Okay, everybody. Today we are we're doing an activity remotely because a lot of you are sick. I'm recording this in 2022 on January 28th, so if I reuse this video in the future, don't panic. Perhaps this is just an advisory video about how to go through this. Anyway, normally we would do this in person, but because most of the class is out sick today, unfortunately, I thought it would be easier to do it remotely. So I sent you an email and wrote an announcement about why we're doing it this way. So if you go into Canvas, you should be able to see my screen behind me. When you're on the home page of our class, if you scroll down to Artist Statements, you're going to click there, and then you'll find all of this information. So what I'm going to do now is just walk you through these steps. And what I'd like for you to do to prepare for this is you might want to have a piece of paper. You might want, if you have Post-it notes or index cards, grab them. If you don't, tear up some smaller pieces of paper, okay, because that's going to be handy later, or have a piece of paper that you can tear up. And so some of this involves timing. So if you have a timer or a phone that you can put a timer on, that will be helpful for you during this activity. Okay, so you can pause me if you need to go gather things. You'll also need something to write with, obviously. Okay, so one of the first things you might want to do is something that kind of helps put people in the mode of thinking about art and why we make art and things like this. I have this short little lecture. I use this in my art appreciation classes, and I also use it in my art history classes. Particularly Art History 2, and it is where I just kind of break down the whole history of art. I break it down into 5 basic categories of art, and it just provides some context and vocabulary that might be helpful. I think it's about 12 minutes long or so, so you might want to pause me here and go watch that really quick, because it might just help get you in this mindset, start thinking about art, about why we make art, about the different functions of different kinds of art. So I put it here so that you can check that out. Okay, so after this, you're going to post, I haven't put it up yet, but there'll be a discussion, and you're going to post your end result in that discussion. But you don't share any of the other steps with me or anyone in the classroom until you get to the end. So it's helpful to be really open and be really personal with your answers building up to that end result, because you'll develop a stronger statement. And it's private. You're the only one that's going to read that part. Okay? So get ready. Anytime you need to pause me to put on the 5-minute timer and do these activities, just pause the video, do them, and then come back. So step 1 is I want you to answer some personal questions. Get a pencil or pen and paper, set a timer for 5 minutes, and I do want you to try to adhere to these timelines, because if you have a timeline, it helps you focus a little bit, okay? So what I want you to do is write a brief answer to these questions. Who are you? Big question, right? Lots of things to think about. Who are your people? What do I mean by that? Well, for one, where are you from? I'm from the American Midwest, okay? Who raised you? The people that raise us are impactful to us. What beliefs and practices were important in your household? A lot of these things are things that help feed into our personality and kind of our basic who we are and what we identify with. Some people identify really strongly with their ethnic or religious or racial heritage. So if that is part of who you are, then you might include that kind of information here. If there is a particular kind of field of thought or something that you really, really identify with, you can include that in here. So just kind of think about it. Maybe one of your family members is particularly influential to you. My grandmother was extremely influential to me. I would maybe mention her. Okay, so set a timer for 5 minutes and answer these kind of big questions. Who are you? Who are your people? Where do you come from? What makes you you? Okay, so set a timer for 5 minutes, answer that, pause me, and then come back. Okay, you did a great job. You figured out who you are and answered the first step. Hooray, good job everybody. Okay, now you're going to set your timer for another 5 minutes. And this time you're going to write about a significant memory. Okay? It can be a good memory, it can be a bad memory, it can be kind of a random, just sort of benign, nothing memory that just sticks with you for some reason. It can be recent, it can be from your childhood, but write a description of something, a memory that had some kind of impact on you, a fairly significant impact. Okay? So think about that, set a timer for 5 minutes, and when you're writing about this memory, be as detailed as you can in 5 minutes. Think about your senses. Think about if there were smells. Think about what you saw. Think about what things felt like. Was it hot outside when this happened? Was it cold? Were you touching a soft blanket? Could you hear music? Really plug into the sensory feelings of this and describe this memory. Okay, so pause this video. Go do that for 5 minutes. Yay, you described your memory. You've got another section done. Good job. Okay, now set your timer for another 5 minutes. And this time I want you to really think about yourself as an artist. For some people, when I tell them to think about themselves as an artist, they get a little like weirded out and they're like, I'm not an artist yet. I'm an art student. Well, you are an artist. I have news for you. But if that's uncomfortable, then think about yourself as an art student. That's fine too. But think about yourself as an artist, an art student. Why do you make art? Because not all people do, right? Well, all people do when they're children, but not all people continue to make art. Why do you make art? Part of this answer might include why you want to teach art, because I know some of you are interested in becoming art teachers. If you don't want to be an art teacher, that's probably not going to be part of your thought here. Another part of this answer might be your influences. What is your art historical lineage? Meaning, what artists do you relate to in terms of the kind of work you make, visually or material-wise, or the kind of art you make in terms of the concept or subject matter? Part of your influences could also be people like a significant art teacher from your past, or in my case, my mom, who's an artist, is a big influence on me. My grandmother, who was an artist and a poet, was a very big influence on me. So I'd have people like that in there as well. When you think of those people, think about why you're including them in your art lineage and your influences. Also, do you have a specific art-related field that you're interested in? Because that might be part of this why do you make art. Do you want it to go into graphic design, illustration, animation, video game design, or a more fine art, studio art kind of practice where you're making, paintings and things that are the purpose in and of themselves, or sculpture, or ceramics? What is it that appeals to you about that path? Because that might also be part of your why. Maybe you want to be a ceramicist, and part of it is just the feel of clay makes you feel whole and in touch with yourself. I don't know. But think about all these different avenues and write out why you make art, because all of these are going to be part of that why component. Okay? So pause me, set your timer, and think about why you make art. Good job! You got through the next part. You know why you make art. Very good. Okay, so all of that writing we just did for 15 minutes was step 1, which is the personal question section. Now we get into step 2. This is one of the parts that people tend to not like and think is the more difficult part. This step is called reduce. So now what I want you to do is go back and read everything that you wrote for each of the questions above. I want you to really think about what you wrote, and I want you to sum them up in a very succinct way. Sum up all of these written things. Pick out 3 words for each 5-minute grouping, and then write those 9 words down. So you'll have 3 words that relate back here to who you are. You'll have 3 words that relate to your memory, your significant memory, and you'll have 3 words that relate to why you make art. So 9 words total. You can write them down on your piece of paper, then you might want to write them each on their own separate little piece of paper, or post-it note or index card if you have those. Okay, so take time to reduce those down. I usually have set a timer for 5 to 7 minutes for this part because it sometimes takes a little bit. So go ahead and pause me and reduce those down, sum those areas up. You did it! You made it through step 2. You have 9 words in front of you, hopefully on either post-it notes, index cards, or torn pieces of paper so that you can see each of them clearly. All right, now we're ready for step 3. Step 3 is core values. Now this sounds like a big picture thing, which it is, and can be a little bit intimidating, but it's not, okay? So defining one's core values seems kind of difficult, but it really isn't. Think about what matters to you most. It might be education. It might be compassion, loyalty, feminism, environmentalism, honesty. There's anything like that, like a big thing, family, something like that. Think about what your most important core values are and write down 5 of them. Write down 5 words for core values. Okay? So do that. And also write these on your post-it notes or index cards or little pieces of paper. Okay, so pause me, write down 5 core value words. Hooray, you made it through step 3, good job, moving right along. Okay, the next step, this one tends to be the easiest one, okay, so phew, all right. So step 4 is materiality. So for step 4, I want you to think about what kind of art you make and what you make art with. So this is literally your media, what you make art with. Is it charcoal? Is it ceramics? Is it graphite? Is it oil paint? Is it digital art? What kinds of things do you do? And then I want you to think about the 3 you use in your work the most and write those 3 things down, again, on Post-its, index cards, or little pieces of paper. Hooray, you did it. You're through step 4. Great job. Moving right along. Okay, now this is the part people like the least. Okay, so we got the easy part, and now we're into the hard part. So step 5 is called refine. Okay, so you now have a list of 20 words. Okay, so as you're going through this, I want you to really look at each of these words, and I want you to remove 5 of them and take them away completely. Get them out of your sight. In the trash can. Oh, you don't have to throw them away, but maybe just put them aside in an envelope or something. Okay. Now I want you to either circle if you're still working on a big piece of paper, but if you have your individual pieces of paper, I want you to set aside any remaining words related to media, meaning the materials you make art with. So those are safe. Then with those safe and off to the side, remove 5 more words from your list, but preserve those media words. You can't get rid of any of those that are remaining. Okay. This part's tricky. If you need to set a timer to help yourself kind of pace through these, go ahead. I usually give people 2 minutes for each of these steps when we do it in class. Okay, now bring those media words back, bring the material words back into the group that you have left. And I want you to read through all of these words very carefully and really think about each of them and think about why they're there. Think about what each word means to you and how it relates to you both as a person and as a practicing artist. So really thoughtful reading and thinking about our remaining words. Now, I want you to whittle this list down more so that you only have 5 words total left. This is the hardest step, okay? So media words are no longer safe, so if you don't think those are important to what you do as an artist, you can get rid of those. Any words can be removed, but at the end of this section, the refining step, step 5, you're only going to have 5 total words left. So pause me, give that a think. You did it! You made it through step 5. Good job. You only have 5 words left now. Okay, now step 6 is called connect. What I want you to do is, if they aren't already, write your 5 remaining words on individual squares of paper, so Post-its, index cards, torn up or cut little pieces of paper, but you're going to have 5 separate little pieces of paper with each of your remaining 5 words on it. Lay out the word squares on another piece of paper, so you have another piece of paper behind them. Move them around physically. Physically move them around, don't just look with your eyes, and look at them in relationship to each other. think about connecting words that would fit between each set of words. So, for example, if one of your words is creativity and another one of your words is intelligence, between them you might put something like curiosity, because that's something that they have in common. Or you might put critical thinking or something like that. Do not use words like and or with or conjunctions or those kind of words, because that doesn't add anything, right? So we don't want little words like that. We want substantive links between your words. So a word that relates each of your words to each other. Okay, so lay out your words, think about them, and then make connecting words that relate them to each other. Okay? Pause me, do this. Hooray, you made it through the connection step. Great job. There's only one step left. So the final step is step 7, and that's writing our statement. So the point of this process is to distill the essence of what makes you, you, and then connect that to your art making practice. From here, I want you to look at your words, the refined words and your connecting words that you just wrote, and really look at them and read them and think about how they all relate together. This should serve as the core, the main core little part of your artist statement. Develop that statement from here. Talk about who you are as an artist, which involves who you are in general and what is important to you, and what media you use to express your artistic interests. Talk about what your art is about, what kind of art you make, what it's about, or if it has a function, what its function is, and how you make the art, and then kind of why you make it. So you have all these words, you've gone through this process, so you're really thinking about yourself and yourself as an artist, and now you take this as a jumping off point and write your statement. Okay, so after you have done this, your statement doesn't have to be particularly long. People always want me to give them a really specific number. We're going to make artist statements that are different lengths later in the semester. We want to have one that's 250 words, 500 words, and 750 words. The reason for that is because different kinds of applications want those lengths of artist statements. So for now, if you want to shoot for about 500 words, that's a really good, really typical statement length, okay? So shoot for 500 words. If you're a little over or a little under, that's okay. And after you have written this statement, what I want you to do is read it aloud to yourself, and I really mean read it aloud, even if that feels silly. That's the very best way to proofread things, because you hear things that your brain skims over when you're reading silently. And then I want you to adjust it any if you need it. And then the next thing to do is to go to the discussion board that I'm about to create and post your statement, your after step 7 statement there. And then in the discussion board, you'll find instructions about what to do next. Okay? Great job, everybody. This is hard stuff. You did it. Good job. You rock.